Sonny, and welcome into a championship week, at least for volleyball and soccer. For some other sports, we're waiting, but we have football playoff games to talk about. It's Monday Huddle. I'm Bruce Hooley. He is Sonny Fulks. And right off the top, we're going to tell you something. What you see right now that you think is live, it's not live. We're taping the show tonight on Sunday because while you watch this at 8 o'clock Monday, we'll both be at Ohio State covering Ohio State basketball. We have a skeleton staff at Press Pros. We try to be everywhere, but we can't be everywhere. We're not a newspaper. We're a feature site, and we don't want to move the Monday Huddle time. So if you're going to watch tonight and you're going to send us a Facebook message and a question, number one, we appreciate those very much. Number two, we won't be answering them tonight live during the program because, as I said, the program is taped Sunday night. But you can send those to us on our Facebook page or on our Twitter site at Press Pros Mag, and we will respond to them. We won't respond to them, obviously, during the show. So full disclosure, we just want you to know the show tonight's on tape. We got a lot to talk about. There's no way we could skip a Monday Huddle with all that we have going on. The Monday Huddle is being taped on Sunday night. So with that, I'll say hello to Lyle, Sonny, Fulks, and we have, how many teams we have playing for volleyball titles, and we got a bunch of teams still alive in the football.
Well, we got at least 3 teams that I know of playing for volleyball titles, and I wanted to add this to why we're recording tonight. We really will be at Ohio State basketball tomorrow night. It's opening night with Robert Morris. Neither one of us will want anything to do with a political rally or anything like that.
No.
We're going to do Buckeye basketball. So lest you be concerned.
Yes, absolutely right. Okay, well, let's run through who we have is still alive and how they maintain their continued hunt for a state football championship. We'll get to the volleyball momentarily, but first, I think I got them all here. Congratulations to Coldwater. Toughed out was a 14-3 win over Huron, Sonny?
14-3.
Marcel Blasingame came off the bench at halftime, and you wrote about it. You were there. You said there were people with tears in their eyes watching Marcel Blasingame play, 3 weeks after he broke a bone in his leg against Versailles. They have a tough task ahead of them coming up against the number 1 seed in their region. But Coldwater's playing with a lot of confidence now that they have Marcel Blasingame back at quarterback, and he got no reps last week. He'll have a full week of practice this week.
Really one of the remarkable performances, not that he lit it up statistically. He had the 1 carry and the 1 run of 31 yards. But, I mean, it set the crowd there on its ear. I don't think anybody expected him to play. I think they were hoping if they could win Friday night and at least get 1 more week of rest for him and healing time, recuperative time for him, that he might be able to play this coming Friday night. I think that was what the plan was. But, they got off to a tough start offensively against a very stout, big, strong, confident Huron team defensively. And, it was 3-0 at halftime. And, when I looked up, I heard this buzz in the crowd, and I thought some oohs and ahs. And I looked out there after the kickoff, and number 5 runs out. And I thought, well, this is just now got very, very interesting. And what he did was remarkable because it wasn't, again, the fact that he put up numbers. It's just his leadership and his presence on the field immediately lifted the other 10 players, and I dare say the entire bench and the 1,000 or so people there to see it. It was exciting. And, it's good when the opposite coach after the game says, we didn't expect him to be there. And He said, man, what a display of courage, of character, and toughness. And he said, this is what makes the Coldwater program what it's been for so many years.
So Coldwater will play Friday night against top-seeded Liberty Center. They're 12-0. Coldwater's 11-1. Coldwater's only loss is to Marion Local. They'll play at Lima Senior, also alive in Division 5. Did not have to work nearly as hard to get to the regional semifinals. Milton Union. Bulldogs raise their record to 11-0. They will take on Brookville, which is 11-1, and they will play at Xenia on Friday night. And Milton Union was all over Preble Shawnee, 42-7. And I thought Preble Shawnee might give them a closer game than that, but Milton is a team that I've said it from the beginning of the year. They remind me of last year's Versailles. They are a veteran team, and they are playing very well.
Well, Preble is a better team than what that score indicated. I don't know if they've been they're as good this year as they've been in the past, but they always are a tough-minded team, physical team, always able to run the ball and throw it enough to keep you honest. And but they just ran into a team, as I wrote about in our Friday night picks, that when you have 18 returning seniors in prominent positions, starting positions on the field, leadership positions, that's very hard to play against. Not too many teams that you're ever going to see has that much leadership actually out on the field. So that's a very talented team. It's a very veteran team. It's a healthy team, at this stage of the season, and it's big. But I think more than anything else, they're just confident and they're determined to get beyond that hump and try to at least get someplace where they've never been, and that is in Canton.
And speaking of a healthy team, that's Tippecanoe. They're a very healthy team, and they played like it on Friday night against Trotwood. Tip all over Trotwood. The finals 43-14. They now head for Bellbrook on Friday night, and the Tip secondary will be seeing passes in their sleep all week long because they are playing Drew Novak and Mount Orab Western Brown in the regional semifinals. Both these teams are 11-1. And if you don't know about Drew Novak, he's the number 3 passer all time in Ohio high school football history, behind the Mock brothers from Kenton. He has over 12,000 passing yards, over 100 touchdowns in a 4-year career. Tip put a fair amount of pressure on Trotwood Madison, and Trotwood didn't have much success throwing the football, but Drew Novak and Western Brown will be another level of challenge for Tip, which has risen to just about every challenge this season and is really playing well on offense right now.
I like to say that no team in football at any level, I don't care if it's high school, college, or pro, can defend the forward pass for 48 or 60 minutes effectively. In streaks, yes. At times, yes. But sooner or later, maybe effectively is not the right word. Just perfectly. Let's put it that way, because somebody's going to fall down. Somebody's going to slip.
Right.
Somebody's going to bust a coverage, something like that, the unforeseen. And when you've got 12,000 passing yards.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a crazy number. You can't replicate that. You can't practice against it. You can't even really scheme for it, because the ball's to throw that much. You've got to throw the ball 85% of the time. I don't know if they ever run it. So Tip's going to have their hands cut out for them. I have spoken today with a couple of coaches that have played against Western Brown, and both of them say it's a real experience. That's how they characterize it. It's a real experience because it's all hands on deck, to try to one, get pressure, 2, get coverage, and 3, when they do hit big plays, keep your composure. Next man up, next play. Just that one's behind you. Concentrate, focus on the next play. So it will be a major, let's put it this way, a major step for Tip to go and prepare this week to try to play somebody like Drew Novak.
In Division II, the Piqua Indians bow out in a tough one to Edgewood. Piqua jumps out to a 14-0 lead in the first half. Edgewood comes back, ties it up. Piqua goes on a long, 17-play drive at the end of the fourth quarter. They converted 2 fourth downs. Sam Schmeezing picked up 1. Brady Uhl picked up another. They line up to kick a game-winning field goal from Jackson Trombley, who is definitely one of the best kickers in the state of Ohio. And on a super windy night, a 43-yard field goal is not a gimme, and Jackson Trombley can make that field goal on a good night where the weather is cooperative. It was not cooperative that night. His field goal ended up missing wide left. Edgewood takes the ball in overtime, goes down and scores, and then Piqua, in trying to get even, has a ball wrestled away from its receiver in the end zone and intercepted. And Bill Neese's squad bows out with a very, very hard fought 21-14 overtime loss to Edgewood.
I saw the two teams play last year, and in my thinking of last Friday night's game, this time at Edgewood, I was afraid something like that might occur, and you can't expect that to fall your way every time. The thing that struck me about that team last year was they're very tough-minded, just like Piqua was the other night. To play in a game like that where you're down a touchdown, you come back, you tie it, you give yourself a chance, as you say, in a windy condition like that. Kicking is always a dicey proposition. But a tough-minded team like that with a running back that they have, the Crosby kid, is 1,300 yards and 20-some-odd touchdowns. So you know that when you have that type of weapon, that you're always going to be within striking distance. And unfortunately for Piqua, it just didn't go their way. And by the way, Jackson Tremblay is a tremendous talent.
Yes,
I don't know where he'll end up playing next year, but he, along with Jackson Cleather at Tip City, what's the chances of having two premium high school kickers like that within 12, 15 miles of each other in the same county?
Yeah, not something you see every day. And Jackson Cleather is a weapon that Tip has that most teams do not have. And he was in warm-ups the other night kicking them from 55 with the wind at his back, slight wind at his back at that hour. But anytime that the Red Devils are within 45 yards, they're definitely going to be kicking a field goal. And we'll look for that on Friday night against Western Brown. All right, we're going to get to our other teams that won, but let's go through teams that we did not cover Friday but are still alive as we work our way up the scale. And we're talking about teams that are going to play their playoff games in the third round on Friday night. In Division II, Big Walnut advances. They'll play Massillon, Washington. That game is at Mansfield Senior. Also in Region 7, Division II, Westerville South is 11-1. They'll play Uniontown Lake. That's a game between the 2 and the 3. That game's at Dover. In Region 11 of Division III, Bishop Watterson, which I think Bobby Hoying is an assistant coach at Watterson, they're 11-1. They'll take on Massillon Jackson. Then in Division I, we have Olentangy Liberty, which upset Jerome on Friday night. That's a game Steve Blackledge covered. Olentangy Liberty 7-5, but they started 0-3, so they're 7-2 since then. They are an 8 seed, which is the lowest remaining seed in Division I. They're taking on Division number 4 seeded Perrysburg, having knocked out knocked out the one, Jublin Jerome. That game's at Fostoria. It's a really good game that we're not going to cover, but I'm interested to see this game. Springfield, the 2nd seed, against Centerville, the 3rd seed, at Northmont, with Bryce Schondelmeyer, of course, formerly of Arcanum, playing for the Springfield Wildcats, trying to get back to the state championship game as they did a year ago. Then in Region 3, we've got a 11-1 Gahanna Lincoln is going to take on 9-3 Pick Central. Pick Central's been to the regional finals 6 straight years. So we'll see if they can get back to the regional finals by beating Lincoln, whose only loss is to Centerville this year. And in elsewhere in Region 3, we've got Upper Arlington. They are 10-2 against New Albany, 9-3. That one is at Westerville Central. And then a game that people in Ohio might be interested in just knowing about, the defending state champion Lakewood St. Ed will play in the regional semis against Cleveland St. Ignatius. I bring that up because Chuck Kyle at Ignatius is well, he's on short time. He's going to coach his last game when Ignatius loses. And Ignatius had the record in tandem with Marion Local of 11 state championships until Tim Goodwin and the Flyers got their 12th last year. So that's the rundown in Division 2 and 1. Let's go now to another team that we have still alive. Let's start in Division 6. Where Marion Local was all over my alma mater. I don't even remember what the score was. We'll just forget what the score was, Sonny. But they were in the 50s, I believe, against my alma mater. Marion Local cruises, and they now get the Versailles Tigers, who also cruised on Friday night. And that game will be played at, I don't have it written down. Where will that game be played?
That would be Wapakoneta, I believe.
Wapakoneta, yes, sir. You are correct.
Place we know very, very well. Nice place, nice, and actually a great facility. So they do themselves proud to get to Wapakoneta and play on that field. 45-0, I think, was the score the other night. If you want to
was it 45? Okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought then. All right. So then elsewhere in Division 6. Let's see how many other number 1 seeds are available. I did have this written down, and now the piece of paper is, of course, elude me when I need it the most. The big news in Division 6 is that
Cary,
number 1 seed Cary, lost 26-game winning streak. Cary loses to Colonel Crawford, 21-14. Cary was down in inside the red zone at the end. He got tackled on the 13-yard line. So Cary is out, but Kirtland is still in Region 21. And Beverly Fort Fry is the other number 1 seed there in Region 23. They are also still in. The Marion Local Versailles winner will play the winner of number 2 seed Allen East against number 3 seed Tri-Village. Reed Ware and Tri-Village will take on Allen East at Bell Fountain High School and that's a matchup of 11-1 teams. So we could see a regional final of Tri-Village against either Marion Local or Versailles.
Well, and I think when that, however that works out, when you get to that point, I think anybody who hasn't seen Marion play in that situation, excuse me, I had a lot of yelling and screaming this weekend. But when I think anytime that you can get, there's teams that are excited about the challenge of being able to play a Marion Local. And I think that's going to, it doesn't matter who it is. I think it's going to be an exciting opportunity to go out and see this team with 9 shutouts. People ask me all the time about Marion Local, and I said, all you have to know. I was in Columbus this afternoon, and somebody said, "What about Marion Local?" I said, "Well, they've played 12 games and they've got 9 shutouts. They've given up 30 points all year." So I think when you have the eventuality, if it gets to that, assuming that they get through Versailles this weekend, that sets up as an exciting opportunity for anybody just to test themselves against the all-time champion in terms of a number of titles won, leader in number of titles won in Marion Local. What can you say that hasn't been said 1,000 times about that program? They just keep going on and on and on and on. And just when you think, well, they got to graduate and they got to rebuild or reload, or just they just plug in the next man up and keep going. That's a remarkable thing that we're seeing, and I don't know if people really appreciate it enough.
Marion Local has not given up a touchdown in a point in their last 6 games. Sonny is right; they have 9 shutouts. The last touchdown they gave up was on September the 23rd in a 27-7 win over Versailles. That's one of Versailles' 3 losses. The team that scored the most points against Marion Local this year is New Bremen, which scored 16 in a 38-16 loss the week before that Versailles game. Wapak, which is undefeated since losing the season opener to Marion Local, managed only 1 touchdown against Marion Local. So that tells you how good the Flyer defense is, and they will match up for the second time this season against Versailles on Saturday night, and that game will be played at Wapakoneta. So there we go. And then, of course, the other semi is Allen East against Tri-Village. Now to Division 7, where we just mentioned New Bremen. And the Cardinals went into, yes, they did. They went into DeGraff on Friday night to play Riverside, a TRC member. And they handled the Pirates to the tune of 39-8. 39-8. David Homan in the first half had 2 touchdown runs of 8 and 19 yards. He also threw a 44-yard touchdown pass to Grant Dickey. Hunter Schaefer had a 38-yard touchdown run in the first half, a 59-yard touchdown run in the second half. Hunter Schaefer ended up with 153 yards on 15 carries, and New Bremen doubled up Riverside on the total yardage number, 432 to 188. A dominant win by the 5 seed over the 4 on the 4's home field. Because
of the 3 losses and their 7-3 record in Division 7, I think they're probably the most overlooked talent and threat in Division 7 this year. I've said this since early on in the season that I expect 2 Division 7 teams, one of the 2, either they or Loramie from this area, to be in Canton on that first weekend of December. And we've made so much about David Holman, but there's so much more. You mentioned Grant Dickey and Aaron Tiemann, Hunter Schaefer. There's a lot of talent on that team. There's a lot of weapons on that team. And I will say this, it's cliche because coaches say we just want to improve from week to week. We want to continue to get better. That's a team that I can honestly say, Marion Local, in that same vein. I think you could probably say the same since week 4 or 5 about Versailles. You can say it about a number of teams. But New Bremen, without question, has continued to improve week by week by week. And if they get through this week, which I think they're going to be a favorite in the minds of most people to do, I think they're going to be a very, very formidable threat to get to Canton. And I don't know how you would vote against them in terms of maybe being at least 50-50 shot to win the title.
That game will be played. Ansonia, by the way, is the team that will take on New Bremen on Saturday night. That game will be played in Greenville at Harmon Field. Ansonia is 11-1. Ansonia's only loss was to Tri-Village by 1 point.
Right.
So now let's go. Pardon me?
I think 39-38 or 37-36 or something like that.
Somewhere in there. Now, the winner of New Bremen Ansonia will play, and Sonny just mentioned him, the winner of the other semifinal in Division 7, Region 28, and that is Fort Loramie 10-2 against Minster 8-4. That game will be played at Sydney High School. It is a rematch of the season opener when Minster went on the road to Fort Loramie and lost 39-27. I believe you covered that game, did you not, Mr. Fulks?
No question about it. And Minster is another one of those teams that I think that a lot of people, when they were 1-2 starting the season, said, well, a rebuilding year, all those sophomores, sophomore quarterback, a lot of sophomore receivers. Their line is a work in progress, because I know Coach Whiting told me that over the summer that we just got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of growing up to do, football to learn, and they have learned it quickly. And they ran off those 5 wins there in the middle of the season, certainly got themselves in a competitive, confident state of mind. And since then, with that passing game with Brogan Steffen and Connor Schmeezing and James Niemeyer, they're a threat from any spot on the field, regardless of the score or the circumstance. They're going to come out and they'll be in attack mode from the opening kickoff to the final gun. And they went to Mechanicsburg the other night, a team that I really thought would be able to put some pressure on him and kind of get him out of his element. But apparently that wasn't the case. It didn't matter. They went out and, again, attacked, and scored 49 on them, 45, 40 something.
That one ended up 45-21. The Mechanicsburg jumped out to a 14-13 lead. Brogan Steffi hit Devin Woobker with a 26-yard touchdown pass. They made the 2-pointer, so they got a 21-14 lead. Steffi's field goal, 29 yards, made it 24-14 at halftime. And then they piled it on in the second half. Steffi had a 1-yard run for a touchdown and a 33-yard run for a touchdown. A dominant performance by Minster on the road, a young football team. Seth Whiting's done a tremendous job with Minster. They are maybe not waiting for their better days ahead. This might be their best days, and they might be a team to be reckoned with. I'm not sure that Loramie, I can't believe Spencer Wells is too happy about having to see Minster again after that first game of the year with Minster. I think the team that always loses the first one in a close game has the edge the second time. And Minster now knows a lot more about itself, has a lot more confidence about itself. And that's not to say anything about Fort Loramie not being capable. I'm just saying, Minster's for real, and they will make Loramie work if, in fact, Loramie's able to get that win on Saturday night. That game will be played at Sydney. Well,
Bruce, it's hard to question Minster. I mean, the number one thing that people usually say is who they played. Well, they won 6 games in the MAC conference this year.
Yeah,
which is the best conference probably pound for pound in the state of Ohio. And since then, they've got the 2 playoff wins that they show no sign of backing down to anybody. And again, like we said about Devin Novak at Western Brown, when you come out and you're going to throw the ball 80% of the time and put that kind of pressure on linebackers and secondary players, somebody's bound to miss an assignment. Somebody's bound to slip, fall down, something. And that can get you beat in a close football game. So they're an interesting team to watch. And again, like one of those we just talked about, they've done nothing but get better on a week-by-week basis.
Okay, so a lot of people are interested in upsets, and thought I'd run through the highest seeds remaining just so you'd see the 16-team region obviously allows anybody 9 and above to play in the playoffs that wouldn't normally be playing in the playoffs. How many seeds do we have above number 9 still playing who would not have been playing? In Division 3, we've got Kenston's a 13, Parma Padua is a 10. We have in Division 4, number 13, Bucknell, Akron Bucknell. They'll take on Glenville. In Division 15, we've got Columbus Bishop Reedy is a 9. And the defending state champion in Division 4, Clarksville Clinton Massey. 7-5, but they are a 13 seed and they are still playing. So there you go. Nobody 9 or above is still alive in Division I. Nobody.
Well, that's why we play the games.
So order has been restored. Now, we may transition back to football in a second, but we have a lot of volleyball teams that are still alive. Congratulations to our state Final Four participants, New Bremen in Division 4, Coldwater and Versailles in Division 3, and Bishop Watterson, powered by the Hoying sisters, in Division 1. You covered New Bremen, and Cardinals with head coach Diana Kramer were very, very dominant in their win over Fort Laramie in the regional finals.
When you get into a regional tournament situation like that, there's the pressure certainly builds because it's always one and done in a tournament. But when you get that close and you're that good and you're number one in the state and you're 24-1 entering the regional round, you don't want to get that close. I know that program does not want to get that close and be denied, and they really took care of business. First of all, they beat a very mature, strong, bigger team in Rushi in the semifinals on Wednesday night in straight sets, and were dominant in doing it. I think they went out and imposed that whatever that mental juju is that good teams have, that when they walk out there say, it's not likely you're going to beat us. And Aaron Watkins and so many other coaches always talk about volleyball being a mental game. You have to believe when you go out there that it's a game of runs and momentum, and you've got to withstand some bad times until your run and your momentum comes around in your favor. And they weren't able to do that. And the same thing you could pretty much say Saturday in the regional final win that they had over Fort Laramie. John Rogers, again, said afterwards, he said, when we could get over the fact of who we were playing, he actually said, you got to play without fear. And he said, we played with some fear today. He said, we played well when we just let loose and played. But he said, we didn't have enough of those moments. He said, the day, paraphrasing him, he said, the day was bigger than what we were today. But that's a very young team, very talented team at Fort Laramie. And John did say this. He said, as far as New Bremen going and their chances of finishing this thing off and winning that third title, he said, outside of us, he said, I don't know of anybody else who's going to challenge him. We've scouted every good.
Well, let's run through that bracket in Division 4. There obviously have been some upsets around the state because the OHSAA site, I'm sure, has the state rankings from the final poll. In the semifinals, Thursday at 2 o'clock at the Nutter Center, New Bremen, ranked number 1 in the state at 26-1, will take on Convoy Crestview. Crestview is number 16 in the state. In the other semifinal, we have number 14 Monroeville against number 8 Newark Catholic. Now, that's obviously not to say that none of those three teams can win because they've won their way into the Final Four, and you don't do that by accident. But if you go off the rankings, you would look at that and you would say, wow, New Bremen's the only top 5 team left, the only that would certainly favor the Cardinals in winning. What would that be for Diana Kramer, Sonny? Would that be her third state title here in the last 5 years?
Yeah, third title since 2017, and they've finished runner-up twice. Okay. So, again, I think that's their biggest advantage. I think she's established that reputation for consistency. Their style of play is very fast-paced, very aggressive. You just have to hit on all cylinders to go out and play against them. You got to not only be able to hit efficiently, score upon them, but you're also going to have to be on your toes defensively as well, because they're going to put a lot of offensive pressure on you with Olivia Heitkamp and Rihanna Paul and some of those veteran players that they have. And that's not even that much of a senior-dominated team. I think they only have 5 seniors on it. So it's a young team still building, and they're still that good.
Well, the upset bug has not bitten much in Division 3, because when you look at the task that both Versailles and Coldwater will have to navigate in the semifinals, which will be played Thursday afternoon, Versailles on the court at 4 p.m. at the Nutter Center, Coldwater on the floor right after at 6 p.m. They both have apparently stiffer challenges, particularly Versailles, which congratulations to the Tigers. They got over the hump on Saturday against Cincinnati Summit Country Day. 3 straight regional final losses by Versailles. They took down Summit Country Day and take them not much more than an hour to do it. They were super dominant in that game. But they run in now to the number 1 ranked team in the state, Mentor Lake Catholic. Lake Catholic is 25-2. Versailles is 22-6. I know this. The Tigers won't be afraid because they certainly played without any kind of fear over the weekend. Congratulations to Liz McNeilon and her Tigers in Liz McNeilon's first year. The other semifinal, Coldwater is ranked number 4 in the state. They're 24-4. They'll take on number 7, Byersville Meadowbrook, 25-2. That match will be at 6 p.m. And, of course, the 2 winners will then play on Saturday at 1 p.m. following the Division 4 championship at 11 a.m. And we, as we just said, expect New Bremen to be part of that picture in the championship match on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. So Division 3, Sonny, Versailles got by 1 parochial school powerhouse. They didn't have to play Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy. They get to the state, and boom, there's another parochial school powerhouse, Lake Catholic, waiting for them in the semis.
To comment about those 2 teams, both from the MAC, the one thing that stands out on my mind, for as good as they've been for all these years consistently in volleyball, Coldwater's never won a state title. They finished second once, I think, in 2017. They have never won a state title. Great coaching over there, great athletes, great tradition. And again, like I said about Minster a few minutes ago, if there's an overlooked team or teams like Minster in football, if there's an overlooked team anywhere in volleyball this year, I think it has to be Coldwater for the athletes they have, for the job that they've done. Nikki Etzler has done there as coach. I just think they're the dark horse that may slip up and surprise someone because they have size. Again, they're prepared. They're well coached. They're very sound. And they're not a team that typically is going to beat themselves. So I did see them once this year. I saw them against New Bremen. They lost that particular night, but they had New Bremen's back to the wall a few times in that match. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them on this stage at the Nutter Center this weekend. And I think they'll give a good account of themselves, as I expect Liz McNeilon's Tigers to do for Versailles. Again, there's a tradition. They have won titles before. We were there for the last time they won about 3 or 4 years ago. So I would expect them to come out with a great deal of confidence again. And it's an exciting weekend for the MAC conference. This is why it has that reputation, that legacy for championship achievement. And one of the neat things, if you're a visitor at the volleyball finals this weekend, you're going to find a lot of other MAC schools there to watch Coldwater and Versailles, because when one wins, they feel like they all win. So that's what the OHSAA says they like to see in terms of sportsmanship and communal support. And I don't think anybody does a better job of doing that than what the MAC does.
Well, the Versailles and Coldwater regular season match went to Coldwater in 4 sets, in 4 games rather, 25-20, 21-25. 25-16 and 26-24. So a close match, 26-24. We could easily gone to the fifth game there, tiebreaker. The thing that really impressed me about Versailles, I watched Cincinnati Summit Country Day on Thursday night. They had a 2-pronged attack. Really had 2 girls that were phenomenal at the net, big, tall, athletic girls who could really get up and spike vertically, and you could just see the point coming as the ball was being set. And Miami East fought gamely in there and went down to the last game, 5 games, and the East actually had a 13-10 lead in game 5. You only need 15 to win. They couldn't get to 15 to the 2-point margin. They ended up losing the 5th game 17-15. Meg Gilliland was tremendous for Miami East, but she needed somebody else. She had a freshman helping her out, but they just needed a little bit more balance across the front line, which brings me to Versailles. I was so impressed on Thursday and on Saturday with the depth that Versailles has in terms of threats. Obviously they have Kirsten Baumholt, who's the MAC Player of the Year. She's tremendous, but her little sister is good. They got 4 or 5 kids up there who can put the ball away, and they can put it away from the midline as well. So really think Versailles will give Lake Catholic a look that maybe Lake Catholic hasn't seen, because you can't attack Kirsten Baumholt, take her away, serve away from her and neutralize the Versailles Tigers. That's not going to work. They have too much depth, too much talent. And I think hopefully, that'll be a problem for Lake Catholic when they meet in the semifinals on Thursday at 4 p.m.
Well, I can't think of anybody who's more seasoned and prepared to go and play because, again, when you go through the MAC conference and you have to play the likes of Ford Recovery, you got to play the likes of Marion Local, of Minster, of Versailles, of Coldwater, all those teams, New Bremen certainly. And, of course, last year, New Knoxville was the state champion out of that conference and in a rebuilding phase this year. But when you go through all of that, you're not going to see anything this weekend that's any better than you've already played.
Well, yeah, I mean, Versailles loses 3 matches in the MAC to Rushi, a regional semifinalist, to Coldwater, a regional winner, a state semifinalist, and to New Bremen, a state semifinalist. So the MAC's very deep, and that, they won't be afraid of anybody because they played the very best. Volleyball in the MAC, Shelby County, and that area of Western Ohio is tremendous. So, you have any Reader Speaks things you want to share with us? Any bold predictions that anyone made off the games last week that proved true or untrue?
Well, I do appreciate the bold prediction that we had from the reader from Logan County that wrote in and said, "I guarantee you're going to pick New Bremen to win over Riverside," and yes, I did.
He had a rather graphic expectation of what Riverside was going to do to New Bremen.
Well, we won't go into that, but I will say, given the fact that they ended up beating them by 25 points, I don't feel badly about that prediction. Let's put it that way.
31
I do have a couple of notes here this week that people have written in about our coverage of the tournament, but specifically of volleyball. And to Max, who wrote in, I certainly appreciate the kind words. And it's like Bruce said a few minutes ago, we're a feature site. We can't be every place. The New York Times, for that matter, can't be every place because he said, I wish, you could get some of your coverage in our community and some of our schools and spread it around a little bit more than you do. But it is a readership-driven thing that we do. And at this time of the year, people are interested in the kind of events that we're going to, and the teams, quite frankly, that we're going to cover this weekend. When you talk about volleyball and New Bremen and Versailles and Coldwater, and certainly the football teams the list of those games that we've done. And, we always endeavor from year to year to do more and do it better. And so, but appreciate the people who do read and figure it out and notice and take the time to write us. So, Max, appreciate your comments and good luck to you and your kids there in the future.
Yeah, so we're really looking forward. This is the fun part of the high school football season, 4 weeks left. We love telling the stories of kids who win state championships or chase state championships. So we're excited about the volleyball semifinals on Thursday, Friday, and then the championship matches on Saturday. We will obviously have a fair amount of teams left next week and all the way up to the state football finals the first weekend of December at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. I'd highly encourage you, if you think your team is going to get there, or if you make it a weekend and you're headed up there, build some time into your trip. Take a little side trip, only 4 miles off the highway, Route 30 to Kidron. And you can't miss it because it's Kidron Road. And right there on the right-hand side when you go into the little town of Kidron will be Lehman's Hardware. They're the sponsor of the Lowdown, which we run 2, 3, 4 times a week, keeping you updated on the latest from the Press Pros area. Lehman's a phenomenal store, one of a kind. You'll never see another place like it because there is no place like it. And you have a chance to win a $50 gift card every month from us here at Press Pros with our friends at Lehman's. So get your entries in to pressproscontest@gmail.com, pressproscontest@gmail.com. And we also get you a 10% discount on anything you order online. Lehman's site is phenomenal, 24/7, 365 ordering and browsing at lehmans.com. Use that promo code PressPros10.
And if you have been watching us for the last few weeks, you know my background's a little bit different tonight. I'm actually doing this from my office tonight, and we always appreciate the support of Skynet rural internet and Wi-Fi, and we don't have them this week. We've lucked out a little bit tonight.
Yes, we have.
With and Wi-Fi, it's worked out well for us tonight. But typically, if you've got some sketchy or Wi-Fi connection or service that's less than desirable, if you call Craig Grissom at 773-0998, that's 937 area code. They service about 9 counties in West Central Ohio with better alternatives and means of Wi-Fi support and internet connection than what you might already have. That's Skynet Internet in downtown Piqua. Again, Craig and Mike Grissom are the purveyors there. And if you'll give them a call, again, I'll give you the number, 937-773-0998. They'll answer the phone personally, and they will help you. They have a great service and a great product. And we certainly thank the people at Skynet, the Grissoms at Skynet, for their support and sponsorship of the Monday Night Huddle on Press Pros Magazine.
And in talking about the volleyball, I neglected to mention that Bishop Watterson from Columbus will play Cincinnati Ursuline Academy on Friday at 5 p.m. in the semis. That is of interest, not just to our Central Ohio readers, but also to those of you from St. Henry, because one of your all-time greats, of course, is Bob Hoying, and Watterson is powered by not just one Hoying, but 2 Hoyings, Ava Hoying and Layla Hoying, and they had over 20 kills combined in Watterson's regional championship victory over Olentangy Liberty. And you want to talk about a close match. Here are the scores of that one: 25-14, 24-26, 25-19, 26-24. So the Hoying sisters got it done. And Bobby was a proud papa this morning. He was texting me about that, letting me know that Ava and Layla are chasing the state championship, and he won. How many state championships did Bobby win at St. Henry, Sonny? A couple football, 1 basketball?
I don't know. I don't know exactly. I'm old enough now, and the years have slipped by. I can't remember exactly what years he was there. I know he played for Tim Beckman. I know Tim won 4 state titles there as football coach. So I don't which ones of those Bob and Tom Hoying were part of. I can't specifically say, but I know they've won 6 titles there. So I know he had to be those guys had to be on at least one of those as well. And as you brought up as well, they were also very good in baseball. So I don't know.
Well, I believe if I'm counting back,
I know he knows what it feels like.
Well, I'm counting backwards in my head from Bobby's years as a quarterback at Ohio State. I believe he redshirted in 91. So he would have been at St. Henry 90, 89, 88.
Well, I see the sign there at the corporation limit when I drive in about past state champions, but I'm usually going too fast on 119 or something, or the print's too small, so I can't answer that question for you.
Well, any final thoughts on our matchups this coming week? I mean, we have a ton of games to get to. We are really looking forward to being there. We're obviously excited whenever we have 2 of our teams in one game, and we have that situation with Fort Loramie and Minster. We have that situation with Marion Local and Versailles. But I'm also just as excited to see how Tip does against that, throw it all over the place offense of Western Browns. And I'm really excited to see what Milton Union does, because I like to see what the Bulldogs are going to bring to the table when they're challenged. They have not really been challenged in the TRC. They had a couple games early in the season where we thought they'd be challenged by Bellbrook. They won that game pretty handily. I think Milton's a team that has a lot ahead of them. They're playing at Xenia against Brookville. That one will be a fun one as well. Any comment on that, or are you frozen with spinning internet?
Well,
I think he's frozen. We held out. We got 45 good minutes out of Sonny's internet, so we're going to cut our losses at this point in time. Wish you a great week.
You might want.
If you're wondering why we didn't answer your Facebook messages tonight, if you joined after the first couple minutes of the show, this show was actually taped on Sunday night because we have Ohio State basketball tonight. And so we're not ignoring your messages. We appreciate your questions. Send them to our regular Press Pros Magazine Facebook page or our Twitter at Press Pros Mag. Follow us on Instagram, Press Pros Magazine. We'd be happy to interact with you there on Facebook. But we thought it was important to keep our Monday Huddle locked on Monday night, even though we have an assignment in Columbus on this night. And with that,
we better make the best of what we can of fate and get out of here.
We better. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have a